Well, guys, we are here for the fourth and final episode of the August Silver Lab. For anyone who hasn't seen the first three, this is a coaching leak busting series involving a few students who volunteered to have their game scrutinized on stream, having picked up the Silver Carrot last month. We are here for the fourth and final episode of the August Silver Lab. For anyone who hasn't seen the first, okay, at least that means we are definitely live. It wouldn't be a Carrot Corner stream without me echoing all over the place right at the start. So Nate, you're going to be up first, my guy. We're going to talk through the last week for you, how it's been. And I currently have a filter on that I'm going to turn off because it's completely distorting the results of the last week. We've got a relevance filter there, so I'm going to turn that one off for the graph. And this is the 7,000 hands you played. So reasonable volume for sure. 7k hands a week is decent. We can work with that. If you can improve that further, that's even better. But how's your game feeling? I'm hesitant to say anything based on results. I can see you're up a few buy-ins. I don't want to talk about that too much. How are you feeling about your play, and how have the last few sessions affected your game?
Yeah, so like the last few like lab week sessions, I definitely noticed like just my thought process in a lot of different hands just feels like 10 times clearer. Honestly, this week I was kind of surprised looking at the results. I played a lot of like really short, like 30-minute hour sessions just because I was kind of playing my C game in a bunch of spots. So I was kind of surprised to see my results do good. But I think just the overall shape of the graph is trending a lot in the right direction, which is something I was kind of looking for. So
Yeah, I mean, over 6,000 hands, you're just going to have, thousands of wildly different graphs. If you were to run this sample thousands of times, it's going to be all over the place. So don't put any weight at all in the graph. If you've played badly, don't be surprised that you won. You can win when you're playing badly, but if you did play your C game, then had you played your B game, this graph would likely be better. Why do you think you played your C game? What is it you've been doing that you weren't happy with?
not so much the play, just kind of I had like a long week at work, so I was
Okay.
just tired playing a lot of side. Mostly
Okay.
just that.
So external stuff, not really stuff that was under your control.
Yeah.
Good. And it's good to separate those two things. What is fixed? What's been fixed in your game? What's improved most notably over the last few weeks that we've been doing Silver Lab?
Yeah, so most notably I've been calling down a lot less in spots that are just like under bluffed or like never bluffed, like a bunch of those type of spots. Um I feel like I've also been doing a lot better job of like really focusing on like being a little bit more aggressive in the smaller pots and a little bit less aggressive in like bluffing in bigger pots.
Awesome.
The two biggest changes.
Yeah. And that's in line with what we talked about last week and the weeks before. At low and micro stakes, guys, you're not going to be really successful by getting fancy in big pots and bluffing people in huge, giant ways. When there's a ton of money invested, you're going to get very rich from scavenging small pots, attacking weak and capped ranges, opening hotspots pre-flop. That's to say spots that are very good for you naturally as a human against another human wider than chart. Say, staying out of murky, bad situations where people are under bluffing and over folding in those, both pre-flop and post-flop. And most notably, just not going to showdown because you can't help yourself. Like most people are stuck at 5 and L, 10 and L, 25 and L, not because they don't do enough fancy stuff, right? But because they miss the simple stuff they have to do, and because they absolutely hemorrhage every time they have a hand with a decent label, and they just do not react enough to the line of their opponent, the board texture as it's changing, and just all of the clues that you're winning almost never. So what you're talking about there, Nate, is a never win spot, or close to never win spot. If students can identify those early in their career and fold in all of them, it just makes a massive difference. Let's get into some hands. Let's talk poker. Let's see what your play has been like. If you guys want to get your leaks diagnosed, your primary leak diagnosed, check out the free starter kit at Carrot Corner. It is a completely free way for you to just work on your game, not that way, and fix your primary leak. Find out if it's red, blue, or green, like we've been doing with the students throughout this series, and embark on a 1,000-hand mission where we actually give you checkpoints and say, review your hands that fit that leak and do it 4 times. And here's the roadmap. Here's the thought process I want you to have. This is the hand review method. That'll get you started. From there, it's on to Bronze Carrot and building the foundations of your poker career with us. But that thing there is 100% free. Go grab it after the stream and watch those 3 10-minute videos. It's just free tuition. So let's get back to our lovely students here. And we'll head on over to the replay review. Nate, review his game first. And we're going to start with this hand. This is a relevance filter. This is something I do when I'm diagnosing. And although we've already diagnosed some stuff in Nate's game, he's been fixing really successfully. And so rather than beat a dead horse, I want to just look at some random hands and diagnose some more, basically see what new stuff comes up. So we go 2.8 here in the small blind. Big blind defends, we get a flop as 7-3 deuce. Play along at home, guys. Say what you would do. Talk about why, ask questions. I'll try and get to your questions that you've asked already in just a second. We'll do this hand first. Small c-bet on 7-3 deuce. I made a video recently called, what was it called? Your shortcut to 50NL. It's a video about how you can do certain things right without being particularly good at cards and still beat 10NL, 25NL, just by not hemorrhaging and by doing a few things right. One of those is c-betting small on flops. That's a fine way to go when you first start out. And while this flop would have a lot of check in theory, starting out by doing a lot of bet here, you're going to get away with it at low and micro stakes. On the turn here, I think we have a pretty normal looking bluff, and I'm okay with lots of different sizes here. We go for 2/3. We hit the queen on the river. Nate, what's your thought process at this point in this hand?
Yeah, so on the flop, that actually used to be a flop that I would big bet or check. But because of the video that you mentioned, I actually started c-betting small, and that just kind of like trying something new. But yeah, so as far as just like range betting and that spot on the flop, this hand makes sense. On the turn, it's I got a decent amount of equity. I benefit from folds or growing a pot, like with a flush draw. So if my flush draw hits, I can make more money. So the bluff on the turn seems fine. And then on the river, most of villain's range is either going to be misdraws or they're going to have some like weak pair type hand. So I think it's fine to go for a value bet here on the river.
Yep, it's a completely mandatory value bet spot. I would get into the habit of actually framing things in that way, like is it mandatory, is it prohibited, or is it optional in the way we do in grade 1. It takes a little bit of work to get into the habit of doing that, but if you speak in that way, you're not going to misframe the question. If you say here, I think we can value bet, it's almost like it's optional or it's close. I think it's fair to say that not value betting here would be a huge mistake, especially when you have like the 8 of spades in your hand and you're actually removing some bluffs. I think this is not a hand you want to slow play at all, and it's a mandatory value bet therefore, because the hand has so much equity. Love the sizing, you go nice and big here. Sometimes people get freaked out with one pair by the river and they're just block betting or whatever, but the strength of this queen is absolutely massive here because you've just bet twice blind versus blind. It's a dry, harmless board. It's a wide range configuration. People don't river top pair when they've called 2 bets very often, and because you have the spade queen, they can't actually hit this queen without being incredibly stationary or hitting 2 pair. The latter is not likely when there's a deuce and a 3 on the board. So really good value bet, gets paid off, and the only question in my mind here is can we go even bigger? I think possibly with the queen of spades, but you know, this hand is getting full marks for me. Back to what you said on the flop, you used to go big bet check. That's a harder strategy to build. It's not an incorrect strategy here. You can build it. You're gonna get it wrong at first, and not that that's a big problem. If you like c-bet the wrong hands, it probably doesn't translate that much into losing EV, although it might. But what really matters is that you're then just enforcing bad habits in your game that aren't really based on theory. They're just like a cope mechanism for the spot, and I'd rather just abstain from the spot for now by betting everything, and then we'll deal with that when we get to like 50NL. We'll figure out like what does a big bet strategy actually look like here, because when you do that, you'll realize that, for example, you can bet Jack 10 of hearts till your heart's content on the flop here for even for a big sizing, but you can't bet some terrible hand with very bad redraw, for example. There's going to be some standards out of position. Then you're going to look at in position and realize there's less standards, and it's just like takes ages to figure out what a good big bet or check c-bet strategy looks like. It's fine in principle. For now, you might want to bypass that node because you have bigger fish to fry and lower hanging fruit to harvest.
Yep.
Peter, what's the best BB per 100 you've ever seen at any stake? I mean, it depends, because if you go back many, many years, bigger BB per 100s were possible. In recent times, I've definitely seen students with like 8 or 9 BB per 100 on certain sites, generally like the localized pools that are a bit easier. On stuff like Global GG Russian Cash and sites like that, when rates have been more restricted to like 4, 5, 6 at the low stakes. I don't think I've ever seen anyone win at like 7 or 8 BB per 100 at 10NL Russian Cash. I have seen 5 or 6 though. I think Shu ran something like 4.5 to 5 in the Coaching Journeys challenge that we did recently, which is definitely on the upper end of what you see in such a high rate game. Pre-rake back, that is. Remember as well, rake back is a large part of win rate these days. If you want to beat 25 and L, you need a big mustache. Is this a big mustache? Maybe it is a bit wider than normal. I was a bit scared about making it too narrow for obvious reasons. You don't want to end up with the mustache that's like very, very narrow, right? So maybe I've overshot the mark there in my caution. I just want to take a moment to thank you. I feel like I've grown a lot thanks to your videos. Please keep making great content. Thank you so much for the kind words. That is why we're here, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't taken your learning from YouTube to Carrot Corner, we have a free 3-video starter kit on Carrot Corner as well. If you weren't here at the start of the stream, check that out too. Okay, so that's that hand. Good job so far, Nate. Let's get one of the other guys to review Nate's hand. Vinod, are you ready? Do you want to review Nate's hand? Let's see how you can coach him here.
Sure.
Okay. Take it away with our first decision point. You're the coach, Nate's the student.
King 10 off on the button. I would generally tend to fold here because it doesn't play great multi-way. If you're going to play it, 3-bet should be fine. You know, if you're not going to get 4-bet a lot, you're on the button. So yeah, that's what I would do here.
Nate?
Yeah. So this hand doesn't super play all that well multi-way, so I think call is kind of out of the options. It's either 3-bet or fold. And just with there being a limper in the middle, I think there's a pretty good incentive to go for the squeeze, because I feel like a decent chunk of the time I can get both of them to fold.
Do you think the spot's overfolded or underfolded compared to theory?
So I think the hijack would be underfolding, but I think the just purely in theory, I think it would be overfolded. It'd be underfolded by the hijack and then overfolded by the cutoff. It's a bit weird because it's kind of hard to think like theoretically.
I want you to try because like in theory you need to know, well, let's start with theory, then move on to exploitation, and then move on to action, right? This is our 3-step process. We teach you this in episode 2 of the starter kit at Carrot Corner. We reinforce it throughout bronze, carrot, and into silver. Go, theory, exploit, action. If it's hard now, I don't care. Take the training wheels off and get used to it, because it's going to really help you further down the line. In theory, who thinks this is a 3-bet? Who thinks this is just a fold?
I think it's just a fold in theory. In theory, it's just a fold. Exploitatively, because it's a 3 BB raise and it's a cold call from cutoff. It's probably just 2 recreational players.
I think that's the fair read, but I think you're getting the wrong conclusion from that. So when you squeeze, right, you're investing quite a lot of money here with a bad hand. This is a hand that relies on fold equity, not fully, but like it relies on quite a lot of fold equity to be okay in theory. And I think both these spots are going to underfold. The cutoff is going to underfold because they're just a fish that cold called and has 78 big blinds, and we just know that fish underfold to 3-bets. We don't need to complicate it any more than that. And the hijack's going to underfold because it's probably a fish at 5 and L that's just raised to 3 big blinds. So if both spots are underfolded, then it's a high rate game in which this is just a fold in theory. It doesn't really make sense to 3-bet this hand in real life. I think this is just a fold in real life as well. So if you stick to that process of theory first, then population, then action, I think you can find a fold here. Now, when you just have cutoff and they're opening their later position, and now you can cope with the fact that it's a bit underfolded by them because you're going to have such edge here. But when it's hijack, a stronger range, and cutoff, there are now branches where it goes multi-way. You now have to risk a lot more big blinds. I think from a risk-reward standpoint and what happens next, this is just a lot worse now than if it was just cutoff opening and then us on button. Don't extrapolate a hot spot into a different spot that's not a hot spot. It is a hot spot to 3-bet against just one player here, especially cutoff, and then it's break even to 3-bet this hand in theory. You can then reason it's plus EV to 3-bet it in real life, but this is not a hot spot and it's not a 3-bet in theory either, therefore it's just a fold in real life too.
Okay, that's where in game I kind of got it mixed up, and I thought like because it was a hot spot like cutoff versus button with the extra player, the extra dead money, I was like, oh, it's probably even more
so what you're doing there is you're trying to just have one side of things. You're trying to just have your cake and eat it. You're not thinking about the fact that you have to risk more and you get less fold equity now. Yes, there's extra dead money, but that doesn't just come for free. That's not just a free lunch. Like there's extra, you now need extra fold equity because you've got 2 opponents. So you need each one to fold more often. That's not going to happen. And now your hand needs to survive better or needs to survive the same, and it just doesn't. So the combination of hand strength and fold equity is massively less here than it is if cutoff opens and you're on button. And the theory EV is massively worse here than it is if cutoff opens and you're on button. Start with the theory step. It's really important.
Yeah.
Okay, Vinod, over to you. You're the coach. Nate's the student for the flop now.
I think small bet on this flop is okay, but multi-way you have to be careful because somebody might have hit something. Small bet is okay, but you generally have to play passive, in a multi-way pot.
Nick?
Yeah, so in theory, in this spot, it's multi-way, so we have to be pretty significantly more selective with our bluffs in this spot. I think this hand would be fine to bluff, like it does have a decent amount of equity, like and we do get a lot of better hands to fold, but it's kind of on the fence. And just with people like moving over to like population, with people just generally underfolding to see bets in like this type of spot, I think it's better to just check it back. Like, because in theory, here multi-way, like if I were to bet and then hijack calls, the cutoff should technically be folding like ace nine, ace eight offsuit in theory, which I don't think they're doing if that were to happen.
Okay, chat, give Nate a score out of 10 for his thought process here. Bearing in mind our method at Carrot Corner and what you think I'm looking for. Give him a score right now out of 10. 0 being you can't beat 1 in L, and 10 being absolute crusher thought process. Let the jury decide your fate. No scores? No? Just a number, guess. Just a number between 1 and 10. They're too excited. They're speaking in words here and logic.
Mm-hmm.
9%. It's not very good. What do you mean 9 out of 10? 6. 7. You're getting some okay scores here. 7. Yeah. I didn't catch 100% of the start of it, but I'm gonna give it. I think this is like an 8 or a 9. Honestly, I think it's a pretty good thought process, Nate. I love the fact that you started with theory and you said, like, it's fine. Like, we have to be more selective 3-way, sure, but this hand fits the bill, sure. I think that's accurate. It would have been a slight improvement to say, and it would be optional in theory. It wouldn't be mandatory. Again, like pushing you just to talk in terms of optional, mandatory, prohibited. And then when you moved on to the exploit side, you almost nailed everything that was important, but not quite. So it is underfolded. I totally agree. People are going to be massively inept at identifying the strength of their one pair here. And there's no way villain 10 is folding a flop c-bet with like queen jack, even though I bet you that hand is like indifferent at best. I bet you like some players will call with like 10s here when you c-bet the flop as well, which is just like ridiculous, but it will happen. At times this is 5-L on coin poker, Jago. So the other way you could have got a 10 here or got closer to a 10 is you could have talked about the fact that you're reopening into a 66 big blind stack at an SPR of 1.5. No one mentioned SPR there, and it's a huge thing because normally in GTO, if you see bet small, villain 10 doesn't really jam on you with like ace 8, right? That's not really a thing, or they don't even have that hand in the first place. A random fish can very often be in the frame of mind that they've called this squeeze and now they've hit top pair and they're just going to go with their hand, and they don't think about like, is it better to call, is it better to shove, or polarization mistakes. They just stick it in. And so sometimes you're going to reopen here, get jammed on when you would have just been able to get transparency and a free card. Check is easily the best play on the flop here. Well done for reaching that conclusion, but a couple of things missing from the thought process. Not bad at all, though. I'd say 7.8.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, so we face this now. Vinod, what would you say to Nate here?
So okay, so we're facing a 15 big blind, 1/3 pot stab, and the other villain folds, which is good. Yeah, they could be. I mean, this is a fish, and they could be stabbing pretty wide. And we have a gut shot, not a great card. But our hands are, especially the king, is probably still live. So if we do hit a king or a queen on the river, we're doing okay. So seems okay to call this spot. I wouldn't say it's a mandatory fold. I would probably. Okay, sorry. The villain did bet 15 into 2 people. So that is something. It seems close, depending on the villain folding, is probably best. You know, if the villain is tight. Given that their VPIP is 51%, am I reading that right?
No.
Uh,
No, there's no VPIP, there's no HUD here. Ignore those numbers.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Nate, what was your thought process here? And do you agree or disagree with it?
Yeah, so my thought process in the spot is he's betting third pot, so we need what, like 20% equity to call. Obviously, we don't have 20, like just drawing just to the like straight, we only have like 8% equity, so not enough. But the implied odds of if we were to hit a queen on the river, even if we don't include the queen of spades, like we just include the other queens, it's like 6%. So we're still pretty short, but it is a I don't really know if this player's like recreational or not, so I don't want to say anything on that. But we are pretty deep with villain.
What's the 6%?
Hmm?
What's the 6%?
The
Your
three
equity?
queens.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in order to figure out whether this is profitable, you're doing the right thing, Nate, in that you're starting with required equity 20%. You're marking that you've got a lot less than that. Then the question is, can you make up the rest in implied odds? Or being able to bluff really profitably when checked to and being checked to at a high frequency or something like that, or showdown value. I think the showdown value is not 0 because there are times when this will be 7-8 and then they'll just give up the river. There are times that exists. It's not common. And it could be queen 10 or queen jack, or not queen jack, sorry. It could be queen 10 or something like that. The issue is that it's quite a deficit to go from, you know, to get up to 20% EV here, pot share EV, like percentage of the pot you get back on average from your 8% equity. I'm not convinced that your fold equity is actually that good if you call and get checked to. So I do think most of this is just coming from implied odds. I think it has to come from implied odds plus this little trace of showdown value. Let's do a thought experiment, right? Let's say you call and the river's a queen. Let's ignore the queen of spades for now. I think it's a bit harsh to start like removing that entire out just because there's two spades on the turn. Let's say you do have 8%, 9% here, something like that. And let's say the river is a queen. What do you think you make on average from this opponent? I know this is very difficult to say exactly, but what would you estimate you make from their stack on the river?
Yeah, so given that they are betting the two people, that does point to their range being a little bit stronger versus if it was like heads up. So I think they do have hands. I think if they check on the river, they will still have like hands that they will call with on the river. Like I'd say like 60% of the time if I like B75 river.
And they don't always check river, right? They might just punt river. They might just like, they might bluff. They might bet big. So just give me, don't overthink it. Don't go too far down one branch. Okay. What would you estimate? How many big blinds do you think you get on a queen river from the opponent on average?
On a queen river, I think on average, I'd probably get like 25 big blinds.
I think you get more.
Average like 20.
The pot's going to be 75 already, right? And then there's so many times when they just bet big again, they have a big hand or they check call like your B75 or something. I think you get probably 30, 40 big blinds of EV easily there. Maybe more, actually. I'm not sure. But if we said 40, right? If you said that like your EV was 40 big blinds, that's just like just under half the pot extra. I don't think that's too far-fetched at all. So if you take that 40 big blinds implied odds and you add it onto the total pot, like you add your 15 in, right, that you're calling here, and that takes the pot up to 75, and then you add another 40 in there as well, which takes up to 110, and then you divide the 15 by the 110, that sets you like a new target for implied odds. So I do think this ends up being a little bit close. You are deeper with villain, which means that sometimes like the river will be a queen, they'll have ace queen, they'll bet big, you'll shove and they'll call, and that sends the amount you can win up here massively. So I think this is a pretty damn high implied odds spot, and even though we are pretty short of the target at first sight here, I think we could easily get up to having enough implied odds here, and there's a chance we just win without improving as well. We hit king, they give up, you know, king 10 ends up being good, something like that. The branch that'll perform a lot worse here will be the bluff when check 2 branch here against the fish, because they're just quite likely to check call an ace or a jack on the river and basically just be too merged on turn. And yeah, I think you beat some of the bluffs anyway. So that's the only branch I would like be a bit wary of, is like that branch will underperform where you actually bluff river. But all the times when you get there and all the times when you just have showdown value, probably make this okay to call. But yeah, I don't think it's that dependent on the player type actually. A lot of people are talking about player type. Vinod mentioned it. I think this is more of a math spot because we don't know which type of fish this is. And obviously, like, the crazier they are, the more hands we're already beating they might have, but then the more likely they are to bet the river, like all those times. So, yeah. It's just kind of close. I think it's between call and fold, and yeah, I would call. But if I was less deep here, then I think it's like much harder to justify it. But there are times you're making like 80 big blinds on the river here, right? So even though that math we did doesn't quite check out, it's not far from checking out. And then there's a little bit of showdown, and the fact that deeper implied odds could be better.
Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah, and I think in game, because it was close, like with all what we've been talking about the past like 2-3 weeks, like I've just been, if it's close, just fold.
Sure.
And they got later, so
yeah, okay, fair enough. I think I think you've got enough going on there to call, but I don't mind for now that you're not calling that spot, right, Chris? You're going to become the first to act here. You're going to tell me what you think, or tell Nate what you think you should do, and then we'll go over to Nate. So we go for cold call here. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? Do you like that or not like that?
If you're not playing 3-bet or fold out of the small blind, I think calling this is fine. Suited aces play well multi-way. I don't see much reason to cold call because the big blind doesn't look like a fish from a stack, but I mean, he could be. Maybe you just had some read in game. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, so he has 70, 97 big blinds here, right, to start with.
Wait. Yeah. Button has 97.
Yeah, so that's...
I guess that's a little bit under 100. Maybe he just doesn't have auto top up.
Yeah, that
activated.
significantly increases the chances it's a fish, though, right? Because if you sample the 100 regs, like most of them have auto top ups, you can already eliminate like 80 or 90 out of those
Fair
100
enough.
regs. Yeah, go.
Fair enough.
So 3-bet or fold is... You guys know my thoughts probably by now at this point in the journey.
Yeah.
I did stop that last week.
Sorry, Nate?
I did stop 3-better folding out of small blind after last week. That's one of the other
Me as well. Yeah.
Okay, so we had the desired effect there. It is truly a midwit strategy, guys. It is truly a very over-the-top simplification that doesn't even really make your life that much easier and does cost you EV when it's an exception spot. Like, let me be clear. 3-bet or fold doesn't cost you EV reg against reg with no edge, small blind against cutoff, when neither of you knows how to play a cold call pot very well. Like, that doesn't really cost you very much. But if it's one of the exception spots, it can cost you a lot of money. Like, if you had deuces here, for example, I hate fold and I hate 3-bet, right? I think you just have to call against the fish nearly 100 big blinds deep and just play cards and try and stack them a lot. And you just have to. It's just winning. Here, though, I'm just wondering whether my hand is a 3-bet for value. It's a lot better than deuces, and I think this hand is actually good enough that it can handle the fact that the spot is over-defended. If you throw this squarely into the box of bluff, you're going to end up not 3-betting it because you're like, well, it's an over-defended spot and my hand's a bluff. Your hand's not a bluff. It's pre-flop. Equities run very close together. You've got two pretty big cards in a wide-range spot. They're going to call this with like 10-9 offsuit sometimes and stuff. So I think you just 3-bet, and it's value, it's denial, it's all these things, but it's mainly just value. It's a big hand. So I would 3-bet, but not for the reason that I'm playing 3-bet fold, but because the hand is really good.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't think it was as much of a like clear value spot, so that's why I kind of called and tried to invite the big blind in because the suited ace plays decently multi-way.
Sure, I think the hand's bigger than you're giving it credit for. I think it's a relatively clear value spot with the 8. I think if you had like ace deuce or something, it's a lot closer. I think the 8 is holding its own. It's frequently hitting a good pair on the flop as well as the ace. Okay. So we call this squeeze. This feels a bit close now, but not bad or anything. And I'll go to you, Chris, since you're the coach for this hand. Would you play this as a call or as a raise on the flop, and why?
So I think it's an optional raise. I mean, we just have a lot of equity. We have a really strong draw. We will hit the draw and stack them pretty often. We're out of position, so if we start raising now, we kind of get to take initiative in the pot and make sure it gets to the size that we want. It'll be kind of awkward if we end up on the river and, we're either raising here or we're raising on the turn, I think. Yeah, I'm fine with either call or raise.
Okay, Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think call and raise both have merit. Raising would be good because it gets we will have a decent amount of fold equity from both players. The big blind player is still uncapped, but But yeah, I think call just has a little bit more merit to it because it's still a small bet. We can call and then keep in the big blind, and then if we were to hit our draw, we have a flush versus 2 opponents instead of 1 opponent, which just seemed more appealing to me.
Yeah, I think that about captures the conundrum here. Call helps your implied odds, and if the guy in the big blind is some sort of fish, and this was a different situation, like this was a single raise pot, let's say, I really like call because I want that big blind player to come along with all kinds of worse draws and just, yeah, I'm playing my hand mostly as a, have a bit of showdown value against the bluffs anyway that they're leading. I have the nut flush draw. I'm happy to go 3-way, dominate stuff later. I think that's fine. Raise also has merit. Like a weaker flush draw is not going to fold if you raise here in the 3-bet pot. Like if they have king, queen of clubs, like they're not going to fold if you raise. They're going to stick it in or call. So raise has merit too. You want to ask yourself, do I want to go down the implied odds route or do I want to go down the fold equity route? And my gut reaction here is that it's not a spot with super high fold equity anyway, and you will have chances to bluff later probably if you need to. Like, if the reg is folding here behind you, what is it they have in it, do you think? Like, if they're folding to 6.4 BB here, what do you think their hand is?
Yeah, so they 3-bet from the big blind pre-flop, so they probably have, I mean, if they're folding, they have like ace king, ace queen.
Like diamonds or
like
a lot of clubs, right? Because you have the ace clubs, obviously. But yeah, they have like 2 big cards.
I would say if they're calling, then they have like aces, kings, queens, ace jack suited, potentially like, very like high equity hands. So it's
Right,
like,
okay.
yeah.
And how do you rate the fold equity against the overpairs and ace jack type hands?
0.
Yeah, I think it's close to 0. So I think in this game, it's probably better to call because you run into, like, they're going to fold anyway with like ace king of spades here, right? Like you would think. And you don't need to force big blind to fold those hands. Now with button, how often is raising going to cause the button to fold their stabbing range here at 5-L in this spot? Like maybe sometimes when they have like 9s, you scare them into folding. So much equity against 9s anyway and prospects to bluff later. I think calling and letting more things unfurl and getting more information about what people have here has to just be better if you're going to use that information well. You're basically extending the hand for yourself, right? Whereas when you raise, clearly it's very plus EV and it's very winning, but like, is it better than like giving yourself all those other options? I don't know. I think I would call here. But yeah. The key question, without getting this too complicated, is when you have a draw, do you favor fold equity against hands you're going to lose to a lot, or do you favor implied odds and maxing that? And I think here I like just keeping the implied odds and options on the table and seeing what happens a little bit more. That said, I can't say that raising's terrible or anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we check the turn, we get there on the river. What do we think is going on now, Chris?
I just want to jam. we have 2 opponents, and we hit our draw. Time to go for it.
Yep. So
I'm trying to. So the other. Yeah, it's just jam. The other option is like some sort of like tiny bet to try and do something maybe, but I don't know if that has any merit. I doubt that either of them will raise a block bet. Like after button checks on the, like he's just going to check back. But yeah, we just go for it. That's all there is to it.
Okay, so I think the time they raise a block bet is when they have like 7-8 or a worse flush. So there is, bear with me here, there is probably an argument here where you could say, okay, let's get really hypothetical here. Let's say that we knew their range was just a flush or like 1 pair, right? And like quite a bad pair because like button didn't bet the like small blind check called the flop. We don't expect an overpair that often. They're gonna have like 10s a lot, and then button has like either 9x or 8s or 7s or a flush, right? So if we gave them that kind of really polar range between like 1 pair that's bad and flushes, you can really make a case for a small bet, can't you? Because you'd imagine if you bet small enough, a flush is going to raise you and the little pair is going to call, but it's not going to call too much of a bigger bet size. So I just want to put that on the table that there is a case for a very small bet on a polarizing river. And again, I always want to go back to broad strokes at Carrot Corner. Like on the flop, I was like, fold equity or implied odds, choose your path, right? Just make it nice and bite-sized. On the river here, you want to say polarizing cards, small bets are probably okay. Now you can explore that further. Do they have lots of hands that are calling a shove that aren't raising a small bet, Chris? So, or do they have any hands that are calling a shove that aren't raising a small bet?
Calling a shove that aren't raising.
Because you can always bet 3-bet against those hands if you can get them to raise the block bet and still stack them, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of struggling to think of one.
Mhm.
They'll call a jam, but they won't raise.
Mm.
I mean, exactly 7-8. That's pretty much it. It's a pretty narrow range.
I guess like big blind could have
Maybe some 2-pair or like a set of 4s that somehow got here. Maybe.
Yeah. So all I'm pointing out here is that there's quite a lot of really weak pairs in their ranges here, right? And there's a few flushes, there's a few combos of like the king queen of clubs, the king 10 of clubs, the queen 10 of clubs, stuff like this as well. Not many when you have this hand, but there are a few combos, the 10-9 of clubs. It does exist. What there doesn't appear to be to me is like lots of hands like sets or 2-pair. Because it's very weird for big blind to check call the flop as pre-flop raiser with 2-pair, or even have a hand that's 2-pair here. And for button to check back on the turn with 2-pair, given this action, is equally weird. So there is a real gulf in their ranges here. There's a real split where they have 2 islands of hand almost. So I'm leaning like smaller bet here. It's a bit weird. And if someone does rock up to the spot with 7-8 or a set or something like that, I'm going to feel like I lost value. But by the same token, I'm going to get bluff raised occasionally. I'm going to get value raised, like not often, right? But it's still a part of the puzzle where I get bluff raised sometimes. I'm going to get value raised by a worse flush, I would think. I would hope almost always, but you never know. There is some horrible nittiness that goes on in this game. And that's the strongest counter argument to what I'm recommending. And then you're going to get paid off by like the 9 and like the pocket 8s and the 10s at a decent clip. The other question is like, if you bet big here, how often do 5 and L fish just randomly station you with King Jack? And the answer to that might be that they do it quite often. You should just bet bigger. But yeah, this is what this spot's about, I think. You can even get 2 calls in some cases with a small bet. Yeah, absolutely. I think the small bet idea has real legs here. Yeah. It doesn't generally. Usually, and we're not small betting because like we're desperate to get called. We're small betting because we think there's a real gulf in their range where they have weak stuff and strong stuff, and we think they're raising the strong stuff a lot of the time when we small bet anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting spot. You go for check, which I don't like because it leaves too much money on the table against the pocket 10s. There's just too much like bad 1-pair in their range here that you're earning nothing from with this check. So that's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
Why did you check in game?
Yeah, I think I just gave because button what did he do? Button checked the turn. So I think I gave the big blind a lot of credit for having like a really like decent pair or like flush draw or something like that. And I figured that they were gonna bet at a pretty high frequency. So then the big blind would bet, and then the button could either raise or call or fold. They could do whatever. And then when it gets back to me, I could shove all in or just call if he shoved.
Okay, so what I think you've done there is decent pair is a bit vague. Like I don't know whether that means like aces. And like, do they reopen aces here? Well, if they're passive enough to check call the flop, I don't know that they do reopen aces here for starters, let alone bet call with it. You might feel great when you get that raise in, right? This is a case of, I love the feeling when I've trapped someone and I get to check raise. You really want that, right? You want that to happen. That doesn't make it a good thing to pursue because it might not happen often enough, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I was growing up, I really wanted Avril Lavigne to be my girlfriend. It didn't mean that like she was going to be, or I should go and send her an email, you know? What do you think about that?
I think I just didn't consider small but enough too, because I kind of thought if I did bet like a decent size or anything like that, like B75 or higher, I kind of just thought like just because like the front door flush came in on the river, like people were gonna be able to just find folds if I went decently big.
Yeah, so you've not engaged enough with what their ranges actually are based on the action sequence. I'd say you've somewhat neglected action sequence here, or at least not explored it to its full conclusion. And then that's led to not being able to reason about what the right play is, and it's led to a couple of assumptions. So when you start off your thought process in a sort of Wild West weird spot like this, where everything is really specific and, you know, generated by a weird action sequence and multi-way, you just want to range the opponents. You want to say, well, big blind normally has like some bad pair, but occasionally a flush, and button probably has some bad pair almost always and occasionally a flush, and then you can land on like a smallish bet that gets raised by a flush and called by a bad pair.
Yeah,
targeting.
I don't think I really
targeting. Yeah, did you guys not want that when you were growing up? Maybe you're a bit younger than me. Did you guys not want that too? I'm sure you did. Anyway. What site is this? This is Coin
Coin
Poker.
Poker.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's move student. Right, Nate, you're going to become the coach. Who are we gonna move to now? But overall, what we're doing there in Nate's game is just more reasoning, more relevant factor identification. The more poker education you get, the better you can identify the relevant factors, and the better you can get to the truth in these decisions. But definitely an improvement. Things going in the right direction. You sound like a stronger player now by far than you did a few weeks ago. So I like what I see. And more importantly, I feel like the buttons you're clicking at the table now, Nate, reflect your ability much more than they did when we met. When we met, I was like, this guy is like literally wasting everything he knows about poker by clicking really bad buttons for bad reasons. I don't think you're doing that so much now. Okay.
I might need to drop early. Would you mind if I go next, if Chris doesn't mind?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. Okay. Let's switch database. I think I need to just import your hands real quick. If you're not, so bear with me, guys. Yeah, but the way the board runs out, many weak players shit their pants. Not if they have a flush, they don't, and you know, best hand they have is tens. That's just not true. Like sometimes small blind has an overpair. Sometimes the button has a top pair hand. Sometimes someone's made a flush. Like that's just simply not true. A big part of their range is weak hands though, but it's not. You can't take it that far. Right. Okay, let's import the sample. Okay. Okay, so just importing. So Vinod, tell me how your game is feeling. What's going on with you as we move into the last episode of Silver Lab here? You there?
You're muted, Vinod.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was saying that it's going sort of better. I've been folding a lot more pre-flop to three bets. Both in position and out of position. I think my fold to three bet is creeping up to 40% or combined. Which says a lot. Post flop, I'm also hitting the fold button a lot more. Consciously. Trying to consciously think in terms of how often am I good here. Not just blindly hitting the fold button. I'm still bluff catching where it makes sense. But yeah. Overall, I would say things are trending upward.
Upward
Compared to before.
in thought process. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still seeing the same pattern on screen here in the last week in your database. I'm still seeing the blue line being decimated and the red line being suspiciously steady. It still looks like you're going to showdown way too much. So we need to be super honest about whether this is getting fixed or how much it's getting fixed in the actual buttons that you press. And we need to take accountability there first and foremost before we say, okay, good, I'm glad it's better. So I'm going to actually start with you, in your case, with a player report. And select this Silver Lab one. And the stats I want to see are your went to showdown is 36, which is very, very high still. Your one win soft flop is 52, which is very, very high. Your AF is still very low. Your fold to c-bet is still 26. It still looks like you're doing far too much calling. Like, I'm not going to lie. This looks quite far from fixed, but that doesn't mean there's not been improvement in the right direction. But
is this filtered to the last 2 weeks?
18th. Since the 18th of August. Okay, so let's look at hands and see whether that corroborates the story that the stats are telling here. Gonna plug in the relevance filter. Yeah, we had a glitch before the stream, guys. Sam saying, you should have had the hands imported first. I was about to, and then like the students saw it. My OBS just freaked out, so we had to troubleshoot that one together. Right, so let's just go by date. Get a good representative sample here. Fly through some hands. So if you guys see something that looks like a blunder in chat, I want you to type stop. And if you guys, Chris and Nate, see something, I want you to say stop as well.
Okay.
It's refusing
Okay.
to show the right window, sorry. There we go. Is this the wrong size now? Is it bigger before? Yeah. I hate this program so much sometimes. It hurts me. It actually hurts me to use it. Like, lock, everything else gets locked. Every single other source gets locked, guys. And then it can't possibly tell me that I'm moving the wrong thing, can it? It can't possibly tell me. See? No leg to stand on OBS. Full of shit. So tilted by this program. What is happening? Look at this, guys. Look at what the poker's become. Check your
I don't actually
disappear.
remember. I wonder if this is some kind of
Has to be
It's probably a
bomb
bomb pod or something. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
It's really funny if it's not.
All right, guys. Welcome to HCL Live. They've all straddled 3 big blinds, and Skeleton Mike's gonna check, and his blinds have disappeared, man. Less said about that hand, the better. So you can't sit here, right, and say that this is fixed if that's still happening.
Wait, I don't remember doing this.
Right, so why are we doing things we don't remember doing? What's our approach to poker? Talk me through what it looks like when you play poker. Where are you in your house? Set the scene for me. How distracted are you? What else is going on? Like, what frame of mind are you in? Talk me through a typical session.
I'm here in my sort of bedroom / office. I occasionally do. I mostly do 2 tables at the same time. But this might have been a misclick or something. I really don't remember calling 8-7 off. In a 3-bet pot.
It's not a misclick because your game corroborates that it happens all the time. Like, looking at the stats, okay, it could be a misclick. It's unlikely to be. Why would it happen if it wasn't a misclick? Why would it happen?
The only other explanation is if I think the villain is an absolute maniac, and I've been at the table for a while, and I've seen that, this guy is absolutely nuts, something like that,
Do you think that makes calling 8-7 plus EV?
Probably not, no.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
just going to face lots of bets and you're going to have 8 high.
Right, I wouldn't do this again.
I don't believe you, and chat wants you to be honest right now, and I want you to be honest right now, and I want you to really think about what's happening, because I don't think I'm going to have to look too far to find other examples of this, and I think it's your mental game. I think your mental game is trash. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think it's trash.
I think that's fair, but if you look at the next worst hand that I called, in a 3-bet pot, I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to 8-7 off.
I just don't think
I
you've
just
got the
think
right
it-
attitude right now. Like, I don't think this is a good defense, and I don't think it's why you should be here. Like, I don't think you should be here saying, I get that you might want to save face and you might want to not feel like a sense of shame over it. But like, there's no shame here. Like, if this is happening on a regular basis, it doesn't even need to be this. Like, it could be any call that's too loose. Like, it doesn't need to be 8-7. Just all the calls that are too loose. If we can't give them a common cause that's to do with mental game or lack of discipline or lack of focus, then we can't explain them and we can't take accountability for them. I mean, I can look through the rest of the sample, but I think we're going to see more of this, and I'm concerned that you're sweeping under the carpet / aren't aware of what's actually causing it enough.
Yeah, I'm really not trying to save face.
Yeah,
I really
okay.
just don't think. I think this is a horrible call. I would just never do this.
Okay,
I shouldn't do this. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so something's happening in game that's putting you into a different frame of mind whereby you're not able to remember or take accountability for these things when they're happening. Is that fair? Like, you're not trying to evade, you're just genuinely surprised, and you genuinely are just not that aware that you're doing this stuff.
I mean, this specific example is just like a way outlier. I really believe that.
Okay, well, let's
I don't
test
think.
that. Let's test it, right? So let's look at more
Yeah.
spots. I'm gonna test this first before we go any further. Then, because if you're right, then fine. But let's look at what's happening post flop. So we've called 2 bets here. Is a mandatory bluff on the river. I don't want to talk about that too much though. Turn call, okay, whatever. We could say something about that. It's clearly not like a complete blunder. Let's just keep going. We're gonna look at lots of stuff, and I want to get a quick review and a speed review of your hands at this point. So we bet the flop. We check the flop and we check raise as the pre-flop raiser. I think that's fine. We check call the turn. What should you do on the river here, do you think?
Fold.
Okay. We do fold. I'm going to keep going. So that's good fold. Mandatory, very mandatory fold, but at the start, when I looked at that blue line, I could see you calling there sometimes. When I looked at that a couple of weeks ago. Open 7-4. See a bit big. I would go small here on this board. I don't want to get into that too much. Okay. Value raise the river. I'm just going to keep looking, getting a flavor here. Check, check, check. 5 big blinds. Min raise. Check the river. Okay, not horrible, debatable. Okay, there we go. Queen 8 offsuit against under the gun. Button versus.
I wonder if this is straddle or did he open?
Yeah, it's possible that's a straddle.
People do straddle on coin poker sometimes. That's a pretty common thing.
Okay.
Queen is still too loose. But yeah, yeah. On the button, maybe it's slightly defensible. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say. In theory, it might be a fold.
Yeah, I think it's a fold anyway because you've got 3 people to get through. You're kind of playing a cutoff here, right? But with the better position because there's no button player. But that said, people are very sticky with the straddle. I think it's still a fold. I think there's just too many people to get through with a hand that's break even as a button open with no straddle. So I think it's too far to reach here.
Yep.
What do you think you should do now?
Fold.
Okay, so there's another call that's just a bit loose. Well, very loose.
Mhm.
You're getting a good price, but it's far too loose, right? What do you think of that flop call?
That's a fold.
No, but how bad is it? I'm asking for an EV assessment.
It's negative EV. Is that what you're looking? Is that what you're asking?
So negative.
I think I think it's a losing call. I have queen high. I don't have. I mean,
Sure.
I have.
So-
I have 2 overs.
So if I limp under the gun with 7-5 suited, it's a losing limp, right?
Mhm.
If I shove under the gun with 7-5 suited, it's much more losing. So I'm asking you to place this on the scale. Like, is it very losing this call? Just a bit losing? Like, I'm trying to gauge what you think of it, honestly.
I think it's pretty badly losing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. And you're able to
If-
do
if-
that
if-
straight
if-
away. You're able to tell me
Yeah.
that without hesitation and within 1
Yeah.
second. So is that evidence for my claim that your mental game is trash when you're playing? If you're able to make this call when you're playing, but off table, you're able to tell me instantly, is that not good evidence for my claim?
Yeah. I mean, I do think my mental game needs a lot of work. You're not wrong about that.
Then should we talk about why, or should we talk about what work that would be and what causes this, like what the motivation is for it in game?
We could. I think it's a big topic. I don't have all the answers. For what the fix is exactly. What I'm doing there is, I did actually start reading poker therapy.
Mhm.
I've also watched a few of your videos around the wanting to win, things like that, that lead you down the bad, it's not being curious about the process, like wanting to win, not wanting to lose, that kind of stuff, So I am consuming, content, that addresses, the specific type of leak.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is just horrible. I don't even want to like. I think it's a waste of time. To say it's obviously it's really bad. The pre-flop, the flop call.
1 sec. So it's these are Silver Carrot students No, 12345 on YouTube. They're Silver Carrot purchasers. I'll run this again, another Silver Carrot workshop. In the future, there will be another iteration of this show, I think. I'm not sure when yet, but that's why they're here. You can also start with Bronze. That's the course before this, which is the Laying the Foundations course. Then we have Silver, which is our sort of big system package and, well, introductory system package. Then we have Gold, which is the complete system package. Carrot Corner is our website if you've not seen us before. Sorry, I'm not getting to all your comments here, guys. I'm just going to focus with Vinod for a second here. So I disagree that it's a waste of time to talk about it. It might be that you don't think this is the place to talk about it, or you're not comfortable talking about it on stream, and I totally accept that. But as someone who's currently your coach,
I mean the hand, you know. I mean the hand.
the hand is just an example of the leak. The hand is not. We're not going to get into the technical aspect of like why Queen 8 is a full tier. Like we don't have to do that because you know instantly that it's a full tier. We don't need to do that. What I'd like to get into, if you want to get into it, and what I think would be most beneficial for your development, would be the actual mental states and causes behind the call and what we can do, if anything, to reduce their frequency, or better yet, just eliminate this fully. Because if we can't eliminate this, you know, I am left with the haunting sense that I'm sitting here coaching a guy technically who's improving technically, who's never going to be even break even at poker at the tables, right? That's my concern, and I don't want that to be you, because I'd like you to look back in a year and be a winning player, not still be doing this and have this blue line. So do you want to talk about what it would be, what is going on in that moment, like what it might be like to be you in that moment when you make that call, what's motivating it, why it feels justified at the time? Should we talk a bit about that?
We could. I don't have an answer for this specific instance, but it could be some kind of rationalization, like, you know, this guy's just doing it with nothing, you know, he's bluffing too much, you know, something like that, you know, and you know, he's a maniac, you know, if I hit a queen, you know, I can stack him. These are the kind of, you know, thoughts that might motivate this, you know. Obviously, you know, it's not right, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take those one at a time. He's a maniac. What's that usually based on if you make that read? And try and be really honest and reflective here. How quickly do you assign that read to someone, and what does it take for you to assign that tag?
Usually a very high VPIP, you know, high 3-bet percentage, you know, like 15% or more, you know, and then, you know, they start betting every flop, you know, bet when check to, you know, blindly, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so there's two parts to this that we're going to come at this from. The first is we're going to question the actual read, because I'm not just going to accept that everyone that appears like that's a maniac, and I think you're probably tagging people as maniacs when they're not sometimes, or at least it's too premature. And then we're going to attack this from a point of view of, so what? Does that justify the play, right? That's the two things I want to do today. So even if this player has a 15% 3-bet stat, that's going to be over like a couple of hundred hands, right? Probably, most of the time. Maybe it's over a bit more sometimes, but this is 5NL. How big's the player pool? You're going to have like thousands of hands on very few people, right?
That's one thing about coin poker. You can't tell how big the sample is, you know. So there is, you know, I'm sort of thinking that there's at least over 2 weeks plus, you know, but that's an assumption. It can easily be wrong, you know.
Yeah, on average it'll be over a couple of hundred hands in a player in a pool like this, I think.
Yeah, that's too small of a sample to judge, you know. Yeah, that's
so
right.
I'll have a 15% stat or higher, I don't know, 25% of the time over that kind of sample when I don't have a 15% 3-bet stat, right? A net could have that sometimes 10% of the time. It's just not reliable, right? So the first point is you've got to stop using the HUD. You should only use the HUD for VPIP, PFR, and for vague player typing, not 3-bet, not C-bet, nothing like that. You can look at a HUD for that guy looks like a tight player or that guy looks like a wild fish, and that's it. So if they're 56-30, okay, they're a loose fish. I'd stop using the term maniac. It's loaded and it's justifying all kinds of stuff right now that it shouldn't. I would honestly stop using that in your head. I would start to say loose fish, passive fish, basically red villain, right? Loose aggro fish, blue villain, passive looking fish, bigger gap, nitty reg, or just reg for now. Unknown reg, because you don't even know the sample size. Just reg for now, those three. And that's it. And if it is an aggressive looking fish, why would that make calling Queen 8 plus EV? How could that work? Like, how could this hand become a winning call because this is an aggressive fish? Even if this fish does bet the flop with their whole range and does C-bet and does 3-bet a bit too wide pre-flop, how would that make this a winning call?
It doesn't.
Right.
It's a big call, Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no therefore clause there. There's nothing making this okay. And that's what you've got to stop doing if there's going to be any chance of you winning. You have to say, so what? Like, this is someone that's betting a lot of hands. It doesn't matter. I've got Queen 8 high. I've got terrible equity. I can't win the pot enough. Maniacs don't let you win the pot. Do you know how you beat a Maniac?
By having a really good bluff catcher,
Just having a hand that can beat bluffs, yeah. Just having a good hand and getting value and they spew. That's how you beat a Maniac. You don't beat a Maniac in red line. And that's what you're trying to do.
Yep.
You're trying to run over Maniacs with red line. And you're trying to run over like random fish that you're calling Maniacs with red line, and you're trying to run over random ABC regs that happen to have a 12% 3-bet stat by doing stuff like this too. And all of it has to stop. I don't even think the technical stuff is important. I'm not interested in it. If my goal is to get you winning, I'm not interested in it, right? Like, I'm interested in like getting to the root cause of the graph and the stats. Okay, I want you to review this hand with me.
Okay.
So we ISO out of position here, 4 big blinds. I think this is too loose with Jack 10 off. I think we should complete here because you don't have position and you have cards that are just not that good. And you can just complete it for a great price and just see the flop and just play. If you have like King 10 off, Ace 10 off, Ace Jack off, you can raise. I think Jack 10 off is better as a complete. When you're out of position,
That's going to bring the big blind along, right? So,
Sure.
I was just trying to ISO the fish who limped,
Yeah, but you lose
limp.
4 big, but you're putting 4 big blinds in the middle. The money you're risking matters too. Like, it matters because if you call it's not in the pot. Like, you have a lowish equity hand out of position with low fold equity.
Yep.
Agreed? Those 3 things are true. Low equity hand,
Yeah.
out of position, low fold equity. So,
Yeah.
therefore, a large chunk of the extra 3.6 big blinds you're putting in here is not doing much work. It's kind of getting lost. Because you don't have a route to winning the hand through fold equity that often. You don't have a route to having huge pot equity either. And you have the positional disadvantage. So that 3.6 big blinds, when that goes into the pot, it's not clear that that's coming back to you. Not all of it.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah,
ignoring
this hand I
that.
actually do remember.
Right.
The villain here was an absolute, like a whale, just calling with everything, no fold button. So I was just trying to play pots with him. I'm
Okay.
not saying Jack 10 is the best hand to do it with.
Well, if they have like an ATV pip and they're just limp calling everything, then it changes, right? Like, you can invent
That's exactly what
spot
it was.
for every.
His VPIP was something like 72, 80%, something like that. Above 70, it was really, really high.
So you check the flop, and the whale checks back, and you pot the turn, and the whale calls, and then we have a 10 high flush in the river, and we bet pot. So why did you bet pot here? Let's start with theory, and then we'll think about exploits, and then we'll think about whether it's good. So in theory, is this good or not?
In theory, I think it's okay. I don't think he has better flushes here, given how passively he played flop and turn. I can get called by worse flushes. So in theory, I think it's a value bet is for sure. I don't know if pot is too high of a size, if it's a polarization mistake.
Yeah, I think it is. I think there are better flushes in theory. Like, people do check. Like, when I ask you what do you think's the case in theory, it's good to try and stick to theory. And in theory, people will check the Ace of Hearts on the flop and play this. They'll have loads of Ace of Hearts combos. In fact, a hand like Ace of Hearts King X is a very lucid hand for your opponent to have when they play this way, because they check the flop with Ace High and they call the turn with a nut flush draw. Your hand reading is way too strong there, even for human. But in theory, like, they can definitely have better flushes. And the bigger problem is that when you go this big, they don't have to call that many worse hands either. They have to call some maybe, but I think you're a dog when called with this sizing in theory. Now, in practice, you could reason it's a whale, they're going to pay me off. Like, maybe it's justifiable in practice, but yeah, it's definitely a deviation to do this here.
Yeah. This hand is completely exploit, because this was very, very villain specific. I wouldn't default pot this, pot here, on the river.
Okay.
I would probably play even check call, depending on an opponent.
Okay. I wouldn't play check call, just to pick up on that point. You'd be better off blocking. So people tend not to just randomly bluff with pairs that they were calling down with earlier, but they will call small bets at these stakes. I think you're better off with a block bet if you're not going to go big rather than check call. You've got the option to go small. Yep. Right, we'll do one more before we move on. Do you remember this hand?
I think so. I think this is also from yesterday.
Do you remember who the opponent was on the button?
It might have been the whale, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so what are your thoughts here when you check the turn?
Yeah, it's a disconnected board. My hand is probably still the best, and I want to check and give him a chance to stab and make money that way rather than just go bet.
Why? Why prefer checking and making money that way to going bet?
This is sort of my approach, with overpairs on these sorts of middling, semi-connected boards. I feel like I get folds too often, if I just go bet. I mean, that doesn't feel like a good answer, but.
I don't think you get folds too often. I think you just don't like it when you get folds. I don't think you get folds too often compared to theory because you're at 5NL and this population stations after they've started putting money in quite a lot. Like, you'll get folds in spots where their range is really weak, where they've been checking. But when you're tripling, it'll be underfolded generally. Might still be folded a lot, but it'll be underfolded.
Especially when they call the C bet and it's like a blankish turn too.
Yep. I think the
Yeah,
turn
somebody
will
has
be continued.
Yeah, I think like in this spot, I'd bet like B150 and expect to get called at 5NL. Expect to get called by like a pair of 6s, 7s, 8s, 9x. Like,
Sometimes. Yeah. And that's all you need is sometimes. Now, if you check, the general premise is that if your opponent has a lot of air, you want to, or a lot of nuts, you want to check. But not right. So if your opponent's range on this turn was nutted hands in air, it would make no sense to bet because you just have a medium strength hand against that. But if your opponent's range is condensed, Vinod, do you know what that means if we say your opponent has a condensed range? What that means?
Yeah, the opposite of polarized, like it's condensed or filtered down.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to bet against condensed ranges because they're more likely to invest heavily by calling rather than by betting, generally. So
yeah,
typically at 5NL, I would expect two things. I'd expect stationariness and passivity when someone's been just calling previously. They might bet when check to here. You can maybe go for a check raise if they bet small. I don't hate the turn check, but I think the protocol of preferring to get money by check calling against the condensed range is wrong. I don't think this is a horrible spot for it, but I do think it's wrong. I think it's a slight mistake, and I think it's a better protocol to go bet at these sticks against most people. Maybe not people who are very prone to reopen or very stab happy or something, but in general, I think it's a better approach to go bet.
If the villain was the same whale, my check would have been as an exploit, because he just starts stabbing, when check two, like it did happen.
Sure, but you didn't raise, so I don't think that makes sense, right? Like I think you then have to raise because it's going to go check a bit too often on the river. They're going to have the whale is going to have some medium hands.
If I think he's air heavy, then raising just gets full liquidity, that I don't.
Yeah, he's not air heavy though. He's called like a C-bet 3-way and stuff, like a big C-bet 3-way. I don't think he's air heavy. I think he's got some draws, some pairs. I think there's a lot of stuff that can call a check raise, and because you're out of position, it's urgent. And if you don't check raise, it's going to go check on the river quite a lot, right? So I think the flop action is the clue there. I don't think he is that air heavy here.
Yeah,
maybe more air heavy than he should be.
One thought that did occur to me is that this is not a mandatory value bet spot, so for example, if there was a king on the board, I have top set, I wouldn't just check that. I would actively pot build, whereas with an overpair, I mean, it is still a one pair hand, so I tend not to overplay those, that's my tendency. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a hand you could try to play for stacks, like on the turn. Because if you just like bet 20 big blinds, then the pot's like what, 55? You have like 60 in your stack that just sets up the SPR like super nicely in by the river and allows them to call with like all sorts of
Yeah.
pairs that are weaker than
I'm okay with bet and I'm okay with check raise on the turn. I'm just not okay with check call because I'm not sure that like this is a spot where villain's range is just. I mean, okay, if you're telling me you literally have a read that it's a very crazy, very bluff heavy player, then maybe it's different and maybe you can make an exception. But you said your standard approach is to prefer to go that way, and that's what I'm objecting to here, not the exact hand. But yeah, I think check raise is good and bet's good, and check call is probably the weakest option.
Okay. So from a theoretical lens, is it mandatory to check raise on the turn, or?
No, because there's so much polarization. Like in a theoretical lens, the button will bet smaller than half pot, with so many of their pairs here. It's probably close to mandatory, but it's probably not mandatory on a deuce. I think your value hand's not quite big enough that it's mandatory. No, it's not mandatory in theory, I wouldn't think, but real life it's mandatory. Because they're just gonna be so much more stationary. They've got so many more merges and pairs that bet call.
Okay.
Yep. So then we face an overbet. And if you're going to tell me that you call because it's a maniac, then I can't argue with that and we're done here. Is that what you're going to tell me?
Like, could you fold this for? Might be able to fold this forever to like that big of an overbet.
Let's hang on a second here. I just want you to say, Vinod, whether this is a standard call for you or whether this is something you did because of a read that there was a maniac.
This is opponent specific, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not betting any reasonable value bet here, you know. He's not betting ace-9 for that size, you know.
Okay, so to move over to your question, Nate, could we fold here? Why is that surprising? Why did you ask it in a surprised tone?
I think it was kind of just like sticking to the hand labels too much, kind of like a gut reaction. Like I've never thought about it for like
Yeah,
a minute. Like
it's
like
an over.
standard.
If the action was different and we were if we were the aggressor here and we made this overbet, I think we could get called by worse enough that like the overbet is good. But when they overbet into us, like this is never a bluff, and I think at this point we have a bluff catcher.
100%.
Yeah, this is like 9-8 or 6s or something. Like we can't call.
Yeah, even if this is an aggro fish, it's typically under bluff with this specific sizing because aggro fish just tend to bet less than this when they're bluffing. This tends to be greed in 90% of recreational players' game when it ever appears. And therefore, in order to call here, you don't just need to read that it's someone aggro or like a fish or a whale. You need a read that it's like that very rare type of fish that actually bluffs for an overbet. Because it's super rare. Very under bluff sizing in the fish domain.
And we need to win like what, like 40-42% of the time, something like that.
Yeah, too often.
Yeah.
So if you're ever going to call here...
Yeah, I do think our equity is probably around like, I don't know, 25% against this.
Like 10.
Because like sometimes they're gonna. Well, I don't think it's super low because sometimes they're gonna do this with like jacks or 10s or something. So there are hands that we beat here, but not enough to justify a call. I don't think. I think our equity is around like 25%.
I think the frequency of
like
jacks or
70,
10s is very low for this sizing. It's not non-existent, but it's like trace, like a few percent max.
Usually because they only called pre-flop too.
Yeah, it's almost non-existent. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be 4-5 set to pair 90% of the time against global population. Against an aggro fish, it's still probably underbluffed because of the sizing, unless they're the type of aggro fish that just overbets all the time as a bluff. So Vinod, it depends whether you had that read, whether it's just an aggro fish, or someone that's looking like a fish, or whether it's someone who actually overbet bluffs, because just seeing that someone looks like a fish or has a high VPIP isn't licensed to call this spot for this size.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think this was the same whale as the last hand.
Yeah.
That's probably why I checked to him in the first place, because I just saw him potting, randomly, yeah, this time he had it.
Okay. So, in summary, I'll just be honest. I feel like your game is unlikely to change, and you're unlikely to become a winning player the way you're currently approaching it. And the reason I say that is that you come across to me quite resistant when I'm coaching you, and you might not be doing that intentionally, but it just feels a bit like in game you have a very poor mental game. And I think rather than sort of like being willing to explore why that is or take full accountability, I feel like you're kind of justifying and rationalizing in every hand that comes up where there's that mistake. It's more of a, I don't normally do that. I had a reason for doing that. That isn't standard. We can see it is standard for your game. The graph and stats don't lie. So the only person you're really fooling with that is yourself, in my opinion. I don't mean to be harsh, but that's just my honest interpretation of what's happened here in our coaching session. And if you were a one-to-one student, I probably wouldn't work with you unless we got to the root of why it was so common for this to happen in your game, because I wouldn't feel like progress was possible, unfortunately, the way things are just now. It is harsh, yeah, but it's true. I don't want to lie to anyone. If you don't fix the mental game issue that's broader than any of these hands, it will be very, very hard to win. And I say this because I want anyone I coach to win. I don't want to feel like we've sat here and worked on a student's game and then winning is going to be impossible, because that's the... Sorry, that's the wrong window. That's the last week. And it's still the same pattern. And we've not had to look far at all to see like the calls that are way too loose. And I don't think justifying each one individually is going to fix this for you. I don't think it's going to be your ticket to becoming a winning player, and I don't think you will become a winning player if you try to justify each one individually. I think you're going to have to zoom out and really look at like, what's the pattern and why am I in that frame of mind and why is it happening? That's my honest advice to you. So sorry to be a bit brutally honest, but that's where I'm at with it. Anything you want to say? Or ask?
I think it's fair. I mean, I do think I am resistant, but I'm not going to be that way forever. It just takes me longer than like I can't do it on a dime. But I do think the graph is trending a little better than it was like before. Like 2 weeks ago, that when we first analyzed the database.
Maybe.
So I'm gonna keep working at it. I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna try to fix the blue line.
Don't spend your time in the wrong way though, because you can try with misdirected effort and then you can try doing the right things. And I guess what I'm saying to you is that you have to make dramatically less bad calls than you currently are, and bad investments than you currently are. And that has to come from a place of, I'm doing things for reasons that aren't technical all the time. I'm overreacting to opponents. I'm calling people maniacs when I don't know that they are. I'm unwilling to ever be bluffed. I'm unwilling to give up. I'm unwilling to lose pots. Unless you accept those things, that won't be progress in my opinion. So if you look back a month from now and you feel like this graph hasn't moved, that might be why. And if the graph is moving in the right direction, it might not be enough, and it might only be in a few spots. You want it to be like the thing is that the fix I'm recommending is such a broad fix, right? It's like such a who you are as a poker player fix that if it's implemented correctly and it addresses your mental game, you won't just see bit by bit gradual improvement. You'll actually see a dramatic change. This is what's required here in your game, a sort of dramatic breakthrough. So I'm going to go as far to say that if there's not that dramatic breakthrough, it's probably never going to get fixed. That's my diagnosis, just so you know. And I truly hope you make that breakthrough and you sit down and truly think about what's causing you to want to fight so hard to win all these pots and call people maniacs and not fold, basically. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to Chris now.
Okey-dokey.
And you guys might be watching this, you might think, oh, this is uncomfortable to watch, this is harsh. You saw this with Shrew as well. This is the way I am as a coach. And the reason I am this way is that I put truth before sugarcoating anything. And I say, I've only got a limited window with these guys, And if I don't say the right thing, then I might destine them to never making any progress or close to that. And I can't sit here in good conscience and do that when they're paying customers at Carrot Corner. Like, I couldn't do that. Speaking of paying customers at Carrot Corner, you don't have to be one. The starter kit is fully free. Check it out and fix. That's the wrong way. Check out and fix your leaks and get your primary leak diagnosed after the stream, head on over to carrotcorner.com. Check that one out. That was started off as a promising segue, and then it got a bit clunky. Right, Chris, how have you been feeling about your game in the last week?
I'm feeling pretty good. Mostly I've kind of been trying to focus on avoiding burning building spots, not running into burning buildings on the river. Kind of trying to switch my mindset away from a really I think what really drew me to poker in the first place was I play a lot of competitive video games, and so this kind of like competitive fighting mindset. I'm trying to get away from that and more towards like a farming. I'm harvesting my crops kind of
Harvest
mindset,
Moon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been folding a lot more, trying to scavenge and stuff, but mostly just trying to avoid, like I said, like just avoiding bad calls, avoiding bad river bluffs. As a result, you can kind of see my red line has tanked, but my blue line is recovering pretty well. And overall, I've been break even.
Yeah.
For this past, for pretty much the entire month, I've been break even. Although I am up like 5 buy-ins in Rakeback, so that's overall. It's no pretty.
So,
yeah.
So your poker story before coming to Carrot Corner was pretty typical, right? Like you're trying to play online poker, you're transitioning from video games, you're getting a bit smashed because it's super difficult, and you're clicking the wrong buttons in a high rate game, and that's what happens. There's some evidence of stabilization here at the bottom of this. This looks like you played a stake that was a bit too high for you at some point, or you went on an obscenely bad
I think that's probably the 50 NL
right.
Slap that I got right before starting this.
Okay, cool. So let's just remove that because it's kind of noise, right? Like if we just look at 25 NL for a second here.
Yeah.
We've got losing, and then we've got like early evidence of stabilization, maybe, but we don't know yet. But what we do see is a plummeting red line, which means that you've stopped making bad calls and bets almost exclusively. That's a dramatic change. So Vinod, over to you just for a second. I just want to show you that. That's what a dramatic change in a graph looks like, right? What Chris has done there. And it's not necessarily all good yet, because Chris has moved too far in the other direction, and he's probably not winning enough small pots. He's probably not scavenging enough. But that's a dramatic change, and we're not seeing that in the previous graph. So that's kind of what we're looking for in order to have a breakthrough. So this is a breakthrough, and it's like if you build the IKEA furniture incorrectly at the base level, what do you need to do? Like if you start building it, then you realize that it's all backwards, what are you going to have to do? Dismantle the shit, right? And start again, as painful as that is. And then the second time you're going to get it right. What you can't do is just take out one piece and put it back in again. So what you've done there, Chris, is you've kind of said, scorched earth to my game. I'm going to click the full button lots. If I'm ever in any doubt, I'm going to click the full button. I'm going to make that my mission this week, and I'm going to fix those red and blue leaks. Great. Now you've got green leaks, because now there's times when you're not winning enough pots, you're not harvesting enough, you're planting the seeds, you're not harvesting the crops in those more lucrative spots. So let's go full Harvest Moon here. Let's build some fields of turnips here and harvest them and sell them at the market. And let's get this or Stardew Valley is probably the more known variant of this these days. Show my age once again.
No, I like Harvest Moon.
Yeah, I'm a Harvest Moon guy. Loved that game when I was like 14. I played that game so much. Loved that game. It was my life. I didn't even have any real world friends. Just like now, right? But it's like bridge people and poker people. Same shit. At least these ones are real, right? They're not like pixel characters. So that's a dramatic change. And so I kind of trust you that you have folded a ton in the last couple of weeks. I kind of trust that that's just happening. And so I think
still not even enough. Like I have a few hands that I posted in the Discord where I was like, this was close, and I made the call and I was wrong. And it's like I kind of got upset with myself. Like I have one job this week, which is to overfold. And
no, you've done a good job by and large. Okay, maybe you've not got it right every time, but we are seeing movement there, right? We are seeing you moving in the right direction. So maybe bring up the replayer for a second here.
As someone who had the same goal, I feel the same way with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always that one hand where your willpower drops, though, right? That happens. Okay, so we'll take this hand for starters here.
Okay.
And this is the only hand I want to look at where I think like there might be blue leaks or red leaks, and then I want to look at green leaks and scavenging. So we have straddle. Are you in the straddle? Is it mandatory straddle or is this
no? It's a race. That's a race.
Okay. horrible hand, like massive amount of dead money. Flop 2 pair. This guy is the hold caller.
Yeah.
They've led the flop, third pot, and then led the turn big, and then shoved the river. Was this one such
this
spot?
is one of those hands. Yeah, this is one such spot. I played this very recently. I think like a couple nights ago. I think I ended up calling, but I was very disgusted here, and I almost folded.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I ended up calling.
Yeah.
So actually, I remember trying to I tried to estimate my equity, and so we only need like about 30%.
We're facing a bit more than pot, so we need a bit more than 30, 33.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, a bit more. And I was trying to think. I was trying to estimate my equity, and I found it hard to believe that I had less than like 40 or something. But I that was based entirely off of vibes. It's like I tried to picture what a solver output would show me here, and I was like, "There's no way a solver would say I have less than 35% equity here." So I just called in.
Right. So you skipped the exploitative part,
I think
the hand reading part.
Yeah, I did. I think.
Yeah. And
in
arguably,
retrospect, I think this is just a fold.
Arguably, the exploitative part is the only part that matters. Right, because you're in like a Wild West spot again, where the theory of this spot is like, who knows what it is, and it doesn't really matter. Let's just see what our opponent's range is here. They've led 3 times. I do think they can have Ace-4. I do think they could have King-10. They could be a fish that's merging. There's ways you win here. I do think they're almost never bluffing, but there are ways you win here. And then the value hands are obviously like Queen-Jack. Could be Queen-Jack offsuit. That's so bad if you can have Queen-Jack offsuit. I just want to put this on the table, guys. When offsuit straights are possible, and pre-flop here in a fishy game, they are. Like, there's no reason why they can't make this call with Queen-Jack off. That's 16 combinations of a straight, right? Like, how many combos of Ace-4 are there? Like, way less than that. An Ace-4 offsuit's not as likely as Queen-Jack offsuit. So, you can see why, like, in these triple Broadway spots, your hand is much worse than you think it is, when there can be the offsuit straight in the opponent's range, right? And that's the thing that might make this a fold. I do think it's a difficult fold to make, because you're beating value sometimes. But the thing is, even if you're beating value sometimes, that doesn't make it a call if it's an unbluffed spot. You can have an unbluffed spot where you beat 25% of the value and lose to 75% of it, and then it's a fold. This might be one of those spots, but you know what? I don't really care about it, because this isn't a spot where I'm looking at it thinking, this is going to make you incapable of winning. Like, this sort of hand doesn't come up very often, and I don't think it's like massively hemorrhaging to call here. I do suspect it probably is a fold against most stat lines. But I wouldn't worry about it too much given the rest of the red line. I think what's really important to look at today is missed opportunities, green line spots. I'm going to put on a really boring filter, honestly. I'm going to put on like a relevance filter and look at quite small pots here. And this is where the money sometimes is in poker, right? It's like these small pots that you lose and small pots that you win. So if I grab like...
Especially in an anti-game like this, I think. Like, it just feels like I'm bleeding out so quickly, and like just getting these small pots under control would be like really beneficial. Definitely.
And accuracy as well affects the red line. Just being more accurate with your play in general is a big effector. So let's see. Why don't we raise flop? That's a very good point. I would raise flop. I forgot to even comment on that. Sorry. I would raise flop. I think there's too many merges. There's too much valuable pot growth, and you don't hate fold equity in that situation. It's not like they're going to bluff it off there if you slow play. So yeah, I think raise flop's better. And that could be a trend, right? That you need to be a bit more aggressive in general with fast playing stuff. Like if you're slow playing in too many spots, that can be an issue if you're not winning enough. And then your red line suffers because if you don't try and fast play, the red line suffers because it then absorbs. You then win in blue line what you should win in red line. Like when your opponent has nothing and should have just folded to that raise and you're making a good value raise, that should go into your red line, but it can go into your blue line if you're playing too passively, and that can make the red line look bad as well. So, okay, King Jack, easy defend here. Could 3-bet. I prefer call. Check call flop. We check call turn. Check, check. Yeah, so that's a spot where like you have a really good bluff raise, but in practice, it's just going to underperform probably in this pool. Like, it's just a sticky pool, right, for an L. If you know villain's an ABC reg, though, you can turn this into a bluff on turn, but that's not low-hanging fruit. Defend 10-9. A bet big. We peel it. This is already getting very iffy, right?
I think my reasoning was I have a gutter, I have a backdoor hearts, and therefore we call. Maybe that works better again. Like maybe this bet is getting too big for that to be enough justification.
Well, I think you've got to do a better job here of engaging with the required EV. And you're facing pot, so you know that's 33%, and then you have to convince me that you realize 33% EV here.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next if you...
Yeah, let me try and do that. So we need 33% equity. Our opponent is short stacked, so we don't have the best applied odds. Like if we hit our gutter, the most we can win is 50 additional big blinds, right? 52 additional. So that's not great. And my mind is frozen.
Okay, so equity-wise, you're very short of where you need to be, right? Because you're only seeing one card. So the first thing to put together here is that you're only seeing one card, and so you have 4 outs that are going to give you the best hand, and then some other outs that are sometimes going to give you the best hand that you can sometimes get to showdown with and sometimes not. So it's hard to estimate that exactly, but you just want to say, okay, I have 4 outs times 2, that's 8, and then I add a bit to it for all the other stuff that's going on in the back doors. And it's not even the rule of 2, right? Because sometimes you do see the river, so maybe it's the rule of 2.5, right? Rather than the rule of 2. But it's still nowhere near 33, right? So then you have to say, where does that come from? Well, implied odds against the 52 big blind stack, as you say, not that great. What about fold equity later? Like if you call here and they, like how often do you expect to win without improving?
Win without improving? I don't know. Maybe I'll just throw out a number. 15% of the time, 20% of the
so
time.
Low
I don't expect it to be.
Very low, and you've got to risk extra money to even try that, and it might not even be right to bluff in this. I mean, it might be right to bluff if they check turn. It probably is for some sizing, but it's not going to be as good as it should be. And then you have the problem of realizability. How often does someone who near pots the flop here check the turn in these games? Like, what do you expect to happen next?
I think we're going to face another barrel and have to fold a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're gonna turn a heart and then call another big bet and then brick the river and then we just lose a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So
I think that's already like don't worry too much about the times you call the turn. That's getting a bit too much like a twig on the end of a branch now. Like the first turn has to be something that improves equity. Then you have to call again. Then you have to miss the river and blah blah blah. I think you want to keep this like simple here and just say because realizability and implied odds are both bad. I have a hard time getting from whatever my equity times 2.5 is, my outs times 2.5 up to my equity. I just have a really hard time getting up there because everything's so negative here in this spot. I'm going to face a bet off and I don't even make that much when I get there. So I think you can just fold the flop, even though you've got a gutter and a backdoor, and even though a gutter and a backdoor is hardly ever a fold against 1C bet, this is the time when it is. You've got short stack villain that's very likely to keep potting. There you go. You turn the double gutter and you still have to fold. I mean, it kind of says it all, right?
Yeah.
That's why you want to fold the flop there. But that's again quite tough. It's not easy.
So here I should have bet. I think I overbet here and got called or something.
Okay. So we are hijack against big blinds. We've defended flop. It's gone check. Check turn. What's your approach on turn? Just let me hear how you're thinking about that, just so I can see how big a part it is of the red line plummeting.
So we have a lot of showdown value, and I don't think that when we bet we're going to get enough folds to outweigh the amount of showdown value we have.
Interesting. So you're thinking about this as a bluff more than anything. Like if I say, should you bet the turn here?
If I were to bet, now that you say that, I'm starting to think about things that can call us I think I remember the hand that this guy had, and
don't think
if I
about that.
bet, yeah, I know it's corrupting my thought process. But no, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's like ace high and stuff that'll call if we bet. So I guess yeah, this could be seen. This could be a value bet if we bet like 2 big blinds or something.
Yeah, so I'm toying with the idea of betting 2 big blinds because 1, you do have redraw equity when you're behind, which is like somewhat helpful, and 2, I just think you're ahead a lot. I just think this pool checks back mostly like low pairs and big cards on the flop, so I think you're just ahead a ton here, more than you would think, and you can actually make a small value denial turn probe, and this is a really nice gizmo gadget to add to your game because it means that when you are playing these capped face-up ranges, you get a bit of denial and you get a bit of value in a spot where most people just check. Sevens is on the weak side for this, certainly, but if you had like, you know, ace 9 here, I think it's like a pretty clear just lead turn small. The denial's not the main reason to bet, but it is really nice against a passive pool to just clean up a bit here. It'll help your red line out as well. So you might not be thin value denial betting soon enough when your opponent tells you they're really capped. That could be a leak to look into. Although this hand, I don't hate not doing it. It's just like we had a fruitful discussion there, right? Because you're like much further away from doing it than I am, and that shows us where we are.
Yeah.
And then you go for the overbet
Then,
bluff.
yeah, there's the overbet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can get a 10, or not a 10 because that's a straight, but we can get a queen to fold. We can get maybe a king to fold would be really awesome.
Yeah.
I think kings are going to fold a lot here. So
yeah, I think an ace will fold here as well. Just not always. Like sometimes you
maybe.
get stationed, but I think this is good. I think this gets more than 60%, and you have 0 showdown.
I feel the way I feel, and I don't have any data to back this up, but it feels like my pool overcalls in these kinds of spots. like with an ace, I don't think I'm ever getting an ace to fold from this pool.
Okay.
But
yeah.
that's just vibes.
You might be right. And because they're under the gun, they maybe don't have a lot of king high or queen high. Maybe they do just have a disproportionate amount of ace high here. And maybe they are over defending it. I wonder what happens if you go like 3x pot, if you just push this to some like obscene sizing.
A 3x pot. That yeah, I don't know.
The funny thing is that 3x pot doesn't actually need that much more fold equity to break even when you think about it. Like this needs 60% and 3x pot needs 75%. It's quite a bit more, but it can suddenly cause a range fold here. Like if they have an 8 almost never, which I think is fair to say after they open under the gun and don't see bet the flop. I think the 8 here, and you've got 2 7s. I think the 8s that they have here are few and far between. And they might even fold that to 3x pot, by the way. They might occasionally, it's rare, but it might happen. And I think it's worth considering, right? Like what happens if you just bet like a huge amount of big blinds here? But anyway, this is not low hanging fruit. I'm getting a bit excited about this, but yeah, it could be. Could be you need a bigger overbet. Could be that check's better against this pool compared to B150. Actually, now you put it that way. I may be overestimating your fold equity there against the ace. Maybe go bigger. Sam said go through X pot. I didn't even see that. I promise you I didn't see that, Sam. Great minds think alike, though. Queens, you left me a voice note. Long voice note. Should I talk about my dream that I had at the end of the stream? I really feel like I should talk about it. It's really important to me. A really meaningful dream. What do you think, Sam? Should I talk about my dream? What do you think, chat? We'll finish the coaching first. Right, so we're Queens.
I think I folded here, didn't I?
No, you did not.
I think I folded.
No, you did
I did
not.
Okay.
You did
There's some.
Come on, no. Don't do that to me, Chris.
There's some hand where I folded queens in a spot to a small bet. This might have been it. I was deliberately overfolding. Pete, you told me to overfold. I'm scared now.
Well, I'm scared to press the next action button here, Chris. Do not talk about the dream. Do not play the voice note. I don't think I should play the voice note.
Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry, Pete. I'm sorry.
I think we have our answer. You've moved from blindly over defending to blindly fold. This is blindly folding. You can't have done an analysis here and reached this fold, I don't think. A full analysis anyway. Maybe you've done like a very quick analysis or premature one. Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So what was your analysis in game? Or what was your reaction in game, if that's a better word for it?
In game, so trying to like cast my mind back to, you know, the annals of 5 days ago or whenever this was played. I was probably just thinking, this is a 9 I fold.
Okay.
There was almost certainly no thought in my head about like equity or
Is pot odds there?
odds. I mean, in the moment, I don't think so. I'm aware that I only need to call like, or I only need to be good like 20% of the time here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that. But
So-
yeah, I think in the moment, my thought process was, this is a 9 I fold, and I folded.
Okay, cool. So have a fresh take now. I mean, I've kind of given the game away that I don't like the fold. I might have hinted at that. I don't know if I made that clear. But why don't you analyze the range properly here now that you're not in game, you're not in that pressure, you're not in that tunnel vision, and what do you think this range is that does this? Let's start with that. You know you need
Okay.
20%, right? You know that. You can see it on the screen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what do you
yeah.
think the range is?
Okay, so I open the hijack. He calls in the big line. He calls a flop bet. He calls a turn bet, and then he leads the river. He leads the river very small,
Mhm.
which is never a bluff. This is I want value and I don't want it to go check.
Hold on, too specific. So it's never a bluff. It's not the same thought as I want value and I want it to go check. There's lots of people. There's lots of reasons for which fish can lead the river here, and
Yeah.
none of them, or close to none of them, are a bluff. Although it can happen. Very few of them are a bluff, but there are other reasons that are not. I don't want it to go check. And those other reasons could just be anything, and I don't even want to get into them. But they're, to give you a flavor, they're typically like, I don't want to face a big bet, or my hand is medium, or I don't know what to do. They're not obvious reasons for a rig to think about, but they are fish reasons for doing things, or at least causes. Maybe reasons is a bit rich, but they're causes, right? So I expect this to be a 9 less than it's not a 9. I expect this to be not a 9 more than it's a 9. And I expect it to be a jack. You bet flop small, right?
Yes.
So it can be a jack. It can be like king, jack, ace, jack, for sure.
Yeah.
It can be like...
Before he led it, when he called the turn before the river had been dealt and he led, I was like, this is a jack very often.
Yeah. It's also just like 8s or 6s.
Yeah.
Or 5s or 10s or something like that as well. And my first thought in the river was, should I raise here? That's my main thought. And I think it's a bit, depending on the player type, if this is like a fish, I think you should raise. If it's like a tighter looking player or tighter fish, it's probably not worth it because you still have to get called as well after you raise here. But yes, closer to a raise than a fold. For sure.
Okay.
And in fact, like I think I would raise against most fish types here. I just don't expect to see a 9 that often with this line. It's just like weird. They're likely to raise to go bigger. Like if they suddenly realize that they want to lead the river, they normally go bigger than this with a 9. Or they've raised earlier. It can happen. But it's definitely at 20%, it's a wildly winning call. You win 30% of the time, it's a wildly winning call, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
okay.
What we just went through there is perhaps one of the most difficult things that you'd ever have to do in your poker career, is like sit on a stream and like watch that hand back and like watch the theatrics and be the subject of it, you know.
No, it's goofy.
And you don't really care,
yeah.
right? You don't seem to care, and that's
Yeah.
great because it means you've got a really thick skin, and it means that you're able to take criticism, and a lot of that criticism will have to come from you. And it's one thing to be able to take my criticism, but given this is the last Silver Lab, you're going to have to be capable of reaching objective conclusions out of game, administering criticism to yourself that is leveled and directed and targeted at the reasoning behind the mistakes. Then you're going to have to then switch to being the student and then correct it for next time. And that's a hell of a lot to have to do. And that's hard.
Yeah.
And that's hard, man. Yeah, not easy.
When I made that fold, I think I had the thought, like, Pete's either going to call me a genius or he's going to call me the stupidest motherfucker he's ever coached. And
Yeah,
It's gonna go one way or the other.
That's a true
Yeah.
statement. Yeah, that's a true or clause.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. It's not. I've
You
seen
also
worse.
imagine like a little Pete on your shoulder, like just looking over
Yeah.
when you're playing. You're like, hey, bro.
I mean, just remember, like when fish give you good pot odds, their range contains lots of hands you wouldn't think about as a reg, and you can't fold.
Mhm.
I think that's a good rule for playing against fish in general. I did this once though. I was on a stream with Ben at Badby, and I just sat down to play, and I don't know, I just woke up, but he was like, I was to play, he was to be the coach. I'm not comfortable like not being the coach. I'm just so used to being the coach. And I forgot all about pot odds in the first hand I played and made a horrible fold. It wasn't this bad, right? That would have been like the end of my business. But it was quite bad. It was quite bad. Yeah. So yeah. About to end the stream, guys, in a minute. So do check out the starter kit on Carrot Corner and have a look at what your primary leak is, guys. Is it going to be a green leak like we see here? Is it going to be a blue leak like we saw earlier? Is it going to be a red leak where you're too aggressive? What's that primary leak? It's a good place to start. And then check out Carrot Corner for more from us. A lot of people watch our streams. They don't know we have a full training site with a full training pathway at carrotcorner.com. Check out. Right, Chris, one more hand for good measure. Let's let Nate coach you. Forgot to do that. So, is there anything to say here that's interesting? No. It's not a hand we want to look at. I'm going to try and find a good one to end on. One that illustrates your leak. I like that fold. Oh, that's a good fold. Fine. Sometimes just nothing happens for a while in poker. Is that a straddle, yeah?
That must have been a straddle. I'm pretty sure that was a straddle, yeah.
Mhm.
That's not my usual 3-bet size.
So I think we'll take this hand. We have the choice of betting or checking the flop here. And Nate, what would you do and why? Let's start with that.
So pre-flop, it was the villain 11, the straddle or under the gun.
11 was the straddle, and villain 7 cold
Okay.
called.
Okay, so open under the gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a really common flop c-bet opportunity. Like, do we make a c-bet here? Does it matter?
I think in theory it's so like heads up, this would be just like this regular like small c-bet spot. I think even multi-way, it's still fine to do the same thing. When it's multi-way, you have to be a little bit more selective, but I mean we have the flush draw, we have a good enough hand to we're able to just continue to c-bet. Yeah, I think we get decent fold equity. Like we clean up a lot of equity. Yeah, I think I would c-bet small here. I think there's a lot of merit to it.
Yeah, and a better thought process than that would be c-betting is better than checking in real life. And I think the reason for that is not only do you get to clean up equity and stuff, but, well, if you get shoved on here, they can't damage you that much, right, with these stacks. And you actually get to... I like the pot growing against fish. Okay, the SPR is a bit weird here, but in general, I like the pot growing against
That's
fish
what I was
when I have enough flush draw. I just like money to go in, because it's a huge EV hand. It's like a value bet. What I really want to hear for student to get an A here is that against fish, this is like a value bet, because the pot size you can win is so massive, yet you like fold equity at the same time. And I think the fish against two fish here, you just want to see bet.
This is where the SPR was kind of throwing me off a little bit with it. I kind of like hesitated on saying that, but
Yeah, if I remember right, villain 7 he just doubled up. He had like 15 big blinds or something, and he was the kind of person who would sit with 15 big blinds and just very very weak player, just very unpredictable, just doing a lot of random things, shoving random hands.
Yeah, so just bet against fish when you have high equity draws and make sure the pot continues to grow. I think that's a useful teaching point in this hand. This is a showdown value hand with redraw. I mean, check seems good. Good fold. Yep. So a lot of folds you're making are fine. Let's wrap up here, guys. Unless Jax gives us a clear mistake again, we can quickly note. Yeah, I'm not going to get into this one. This is fine. This is going to be mergy, draws, etc. So in general, guys, I think, given it's just the two of you on the call... No, Vinod's still here. Sorry, Vinod, I didn't know you were still here. I thought you were dropping off. Are you still here? All three of you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've spoken to you all specifically about what I think you need to do. Chris, I think you need to just, in small pots, pay attention to spots that you can scavenge in, where villain's range is weak and you can just bluff a lot. Don't take that to the triple barrel situations, check raise, bet, etc., and look out for times when your folds have gone too far. They've definitely gone a bit too far. In general, what you all need to think about now is, how do you balance your poker education with clicking the right buttons at the tables? And you want to get the right ratio of that. Keep going with Silver Carrot and Grade 1, but do it as a long-term project where you watch, a video a day. If you've got time, a video a day. If not, a video every 2 days until you get to the end of Grade 1. And then try and apply it to your game. Try and pick hands that actually fit what you're doing. So if you're looking at bluffing, if you just watched Lecture 3 about mandatory, prohibited, and optional bluffs, go through your play and filter for times when you had the chance to bluff and review 8 hands where you could have bluffed, and is it optional in theory? Why not? Check your work in a solver. Look at Grade 1. Does it make sense? Do you understand that now? Then move on to exploits. Your mission is to make theory, exploit, action the heart and soul of your thought process. And if you can do that in spots that resemble theory, that's fantastic. If the spot's wild and you're against fish that have crazy ranges and it's like a limped 4-way pot, you might just want to start at like, what's their range and what are you going to do? Like, what's the exploitative situation you're in and how are you going to maximize in that thought? I'll say one thing to each of you at this point, just to wrap up. Vinod, don't be afraid to be introspective. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror and ask what's really there and get to the bottom of that blue line like we talked about. Don't be afraid to do that. That's where the best rewards are. That's where you'll get the richest. Chris, glad that you made a dramatic change. That's huge. But calibrate. Don't lose sight of pot odds. Don't lose sight of a decision-making process. But your thought process is impressing me out of game. You really sound like you know what you're talking about. And Nate, you're now clicking the right buttons with a decent developing skill set, not the wrong ones. And I think that's because you're now tracing EV a lot better. Keep doing that. Keep tracing EV. Don't lose sight of it. Don't regress to your old game. It's easy to do that if you're not careful. Do you guys have any quick questions for me before I send you on your way?
Nope.
Cool. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Keep in touch on the Discord. Let me know how you're all going. And who knows, maybe we'll do a stream with one of you someday and check in.
Cool.
I'm going to talk to chat for a second, guys. I'll let you guys drop off. You don't need to hang around, and I'll just go full screen and reply to some stuff in chat and bring this one to a close. All right. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, chat. So go to full screen mode. What do you guys think about that show? Do you want to see that again, or do you want to see something else? I am going to be doing the Wednesday grind streams. That's going to be a common thing that I do. Is there something else that you also want to see from me? Let me know in this chat. I'll keep it up on my screen. We need more roasting. It's intended as coaching, honest coaching. I know sometimes it can come across as roasting, but I try and make impressions on my students, and if I feel like they're not moving in the right direction, I will get firmer, for sure. The mustache is growing on me. Actually, it's growing on me. That was a joke. Yeah. My hairdresser said that she liked it. A lot of people have said that they like it. My wife still doesn't like it. She'll never like it, though. Should I tell you about my dream? I think we should do the dream, like, real quick. Then I think when have I got this call? I've got a call with got like a market research call I need to do shortly. Let me just make sure I've got time. We said, oh, I've only got a few minutes. Anyway, I'm going to show you the image from my dream. Because this was wild, man. Sam said I shouldn't talk about the dream, but I feel like I definitely should. So I got ChatGPT to depict it. Can you guys see this? You kind of see that, right? That's the image from it. So that's me. It's not actually me, but it's like a guy that represents me. You might wonder like what's going on there. So in this dream, I was like running along the edge of a field, but I started like galloping like a horse, and I was really, really happy about it. I was really like exhilarated and happy. And then as I turned to my right, I noticed there were loads of pine trees, and I was still really happy, and I was like free and trotting about the place like a horse. I wasn't a horse, but I was moving like a horse, like cantering. That's why it's depicted like the horse there. And then I reached into the trees, and there were these loaves of bread, but they had like pine sap all over them because they were growing in the trees, but they were like delicious loaves of bread. I scooped a few of them out the trees, and I like trotted back towards like the village I'd come from with the loaves of bread, and I was like so happy about it. And as I woke up, I was like, I felt so happy. I'd like harvested these bread loaves from the trees, and I was just like, it's the most profound effect the dream's had on me in a very long time. It's been like many years since I've had a dream that like I've literally woke up, because my son started crying. He's got a cold, so he was in his crib, and he's woken up, his nose is all congested, and he wants me to come in and wipe his nose and give him some water so he can go back to sleep. So he's like, like unhappy. So I gave him the water, wiped his nose, gave him his dummy back. He goes back down to sleep, and I'm just lying there like, I go back through to my room where I'm sleeping. I'm just like, that dream was like so powerful. And ChatGPT was like, put it on your phone as your screensaver so you don't forget it. So I did. Anyway, that was my dream. So you guys tell me what you think is going on in that one. But yeah, it was wild. Is this 10 NL hands? These were all 5 NL students, actually. Just babies, just starting out. That's why they need so much direction setting. They need that broad direction setting, not micromanagement, not diving into each individual hand and being like, what's right here, what's the opponent's range. We do a bit of that, but they need broad lessons in what to do. Will you share if Vinod turns the graph around? 100%. 100% I'll share. I would like nothing more than for that to happen. We have some mental game stuff on another stream soon. Yeah, absolutely. I want you to coach Jess again and actually make her better. I kind of know what you mean. The first time I coached Jess, I was too into like trying to make everyone like a really good theoretician in those days, and I do still think theory is really important, but now I have courses that just do that, and I recommend that coaching is less about that now and more about exploit stuff. And if I would have a do-over with Jess, I would definitely get her to just click the right buttons, and I think I'd make more progress. I think Jess has some, or at least I don't know about now, I can't speak to that, but had some pretty severe mental game issues that made her play a lot worse than she was capable of as well, which made it tough. Which course would you recommend for an NL10 grinder with ambition of reaching 100 NL? Silver Carrot, but I would start. Well, you get bronze when you pick up silver, right? It's all inclusive, right? So if you get silver, you also get access to bronze. I definitely just recommend doing silver soon. You can start with bronze if you want. If you want to make sure that our content's for you, you can always start with bronze, but silver's where it's at. Grade 1 is the most important thing to do if you're a 10 NL player, is to get that theory going and start that process as soon as possible so you can build it up slowly. It will take time. And also do courses like Cash Injection within silver to get quicker results. You want to do both, right? You want to get wins, you want to get your win rate up, you want to fix your leaks, we want to do all of that, but we also want to like lay the foundations for the long term. So definitely silver is going to be fine for you. I'd like to sign up for this if it's something you offer. What do you mean, like the silver lab? Well, if you get Silver Carrot, it'll make you eligible to attend future silver labs. We're not running a specific promotion right now. I can't tell you when that's going to be. But if you become a Silver Carrot student, you'll be eligible for this the next time it runs. And you'll also get silver, right, at Carrot Corner. When is Shu coming back? Shu is coming back. I spoke to her the other day, and I sort of said, I'm sorry about the animal stuff. The animal stuff wasn't really right, you know? It wasn't animal stuff. It was like Polar Bear Warrior, etc. That wasn't right for her level. Kind of confused her a bit. So she was like, don't be stupid, I'm eternally grateful. And I was like, no, it wasn't right. I put my hands up where I've coached someone not in the best way. And that wasn't the best way. So yeah. What would help with mental more? Doing daily exercise, eating well, sleeping well, or being self-aware and injecting logic? Yeah, everything, all of the above. Mental game is like a massive category of stuff. And there's no single one thing that cures it. The first step is accountability and openness and honesty with yourself without harsh judgment. Being able to look at yourself and say, I trust myself to give me feedback so I don't have to be defensive to myself. I think that's a big starting point. I love the way you explain the game. Thank you so much. You're welcome. More streams tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. We're going to do the next stream. So, and that's going to be a live play. So I'll see you guys back here for that. Check out Carrot Corner for the free starter kit. Nailed it that time. Starter kit. And yeah, have a look at our other stuff on there. We have a complete learning pathway. And I will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Oh, we also have a bronze Discord now, by the way, if you get bronze. And we have a starter Discord if you get starter. So pay attention to the emails you get. And put in your real email so that you can actually join the Discord server and get the link and be part of the community. Don't be like, Joe. People do that. It's like, okay, I get the guy's first name is Joe, but there's no way his email is actually like Joe at whatever, and then he doesn't get it. And he's like, oh, where's my Discord link? Put in your email, you get the Discord link, right? Right, guys. Catch you later.